Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Telling It Like It Is. My name is Jade Alberts, the founder of Pure Guidance, and I won't talk about Pure Guidance today because I want to talk about Community Now magazine. We are 1 week away from our mental wellness summit. It will be up in the comment section. You can click on it, go to the website. I have 2 tickets of all the ones I bought to give away. So if you want to go, you want to come, you want to be around, people that are going to be vulnerable for from 9 to 3 next Wednesday, just DM me and I will give you a ticket. Again, it is something that I'm very passionate about. A lot of us in our ecosystem are passionate about, and you don't have to be alone. It's not a journey that you need to take alone. And I'm sure we'll talk about that here with our great guest and one of my good friends that I've got to know over the last little bit at Founders Coffee. Dan, how are you today?
I'm great. Weather's warming up, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I'm looking outside. It's not snowing. I'm not going to hurt my back today. I'm pretty happy.
Yeah.
I always love the fact that it's and I'm sure we'll probably talk a little bit about how this kind of weather affects your business when it comes to delivering and how people order. I think that's going to be interesting. But I mean, I love as I've gotten to know you over the last year or so, and been around to you, and we're very like minded, and you are one of the most passionate people I have ever met about supporting local and the local food industry. So why don't you share your founding story with us?
Sure. It all actually started by fluke. Like most people, my background's in oil and gas, and my wife and business partner, her background was oil and gas. So it's what happens when you get a corporate finance guy and an environmental scientist together. And we had the opportunity to move out to the country and get to know our neighbors. And I've always been a person who loves food. We always loved to eat. Even our honeymoon was about going to eat some of the best restaurants in the world. That was our honeymoon. And so we moved out to the country, and got a chance to really know our producers our neighbors who are ranchers, and hearing their stories about how they weren't making any money. And this bothered us because, like, and this would have been 3-4 years ago when we started exploring this and looking at it and saying, we pay a fortune for food back then. How are you guys not making any money? And that kind of led us down the rabbit hole of looking into the whole system. And through trial, error, failure, success, it kind of has led to where Cultivatr is today.
So I guess what kind of when you're having this original conversation with the farmers and the ranchers and the what are they saying? Why weren't they making money? What were some of the hurdles that they had to overcome, and it just clicked in you and said, "Hey, shit, I can help you here."
Well, the first thing is how the distribution system works, is how the food system works. And so hearing a farmer's opinion on how that works. And so that led us to try something. So we just said, well, let's just start a small hobby business. Let's launch an e-commerce site, help somebody sell some beef. And from there, we did really well. We sold it really quickly, but then we heard from customers, oh, do you know someone who does this? Do you know someone who does that? Do you know someone who does this? But then one of the problems became is, how do we fix the supply of it? Because it's not like, and again, we're starting to see issues with supply chains we never thought we'd have in other industries, but with food, it's not like food can instantly be grown.
Oh my goodness, he went away. Hey, that's what happens when you live in the country and you live on the farm. I'm sure he will be back, so we'll just keep talking. For anybody that wants to find out more information about Cultivatr, cultivatr.ca. It's spelled a little differently. You can see it, in there, but you just click on it on the comment section. But this is why I love live. I mean, this is life of an entrepreneur. Nothing goes like this and smooth and things. It's up and down. It's a roller coaster. So, I mean, this is exactly why I love doing live shows, because this is the life of an entrepreneur. I was just talking about that. Just nothing goes smoothly as an entrepreneur.
Oh, am I back, Jade?
You are back, my friend.
Okay, perfect. Not sure what happened there. I was still hearing you. So,
Oh
anyways,
yeah,
yeah,
we're
no.
good. We're good. So yeah, just keep on going.
Sure, yeah. So that's the challenge is it's not just fixing, like, last mile delivery, but it's fixing the overall system. And it actually took us a year to do a deep dive into agriculture and actually get to the problem of how does the system work, where it's flaws. And we discovered the system hasn't changed since the 1950s. And so we got producers overproducing, going into a distribution system that doesn't really help, and then consumers paying for it. One of the biggest things we discovered is there's so much waste in the system, and I think that's the disconnect, because there was waste. About 35% of what we pay for food is actually for the right to throw it out, whether that's in transportation, whether that's in sitting on a grocery store shelf and not being sold, whether that's the producer overgrowing because he's being told to grow as much as he can to get to the market and then competing against everyone else. And so that's what we wanted to solve. And so that's sort of the solution we came up with, is how do we solve that? And that's where sort of we sort of started using, machine learning to be able to solve that.
Well, and I mean, we could probably talk about waste all day long, right? And when it comes to how we order, it's changed actually the way we, even us as a family, how we buy food and smaller things now, those types of things. I'm out and about. I'm lucky enough to do that. Pick something up, buy it at home, buy local, those types of things, right? Like I totally agree with your statement there. So when you were working with these, I mean, I know you have your people beside you, like your ranchers, and whoever else. How were you able to expand to go bigger? Were you able to find more, or are you just kind of keeping into your little area right now?
So our sort of philosophy is that we'll work with anyone, as long as it's not duplicating. We want to be loyal to a producer and make sure we're maximizing their ability. So, like, again, we're not going to sell 8 different tomato suppliers selling the same tomatoes, because that's one of the problems. But we like to work with other farmers, and as we grow, that's part of where technology comes together. Is, okay, if you've got this land mass and you've got this piece of land, you grow tomatoes, you grow carrots, and don't compete against each other, and start working with them and sharing that data with the farmer so that they're able to get us price and not compete against each other. One of the things we joke about in so many things, and it's not just farming, you see it in business. As soon as somebody has a good idea, there's 35 copycats trying to do it, and all you do is create a race to what I call a race to zero. Whoever has the lowest price and lowest profit wins. And that doesn't necessarily help the consumer, or it doesn't necessarily help the business either. So it's not a good model.
I
And so
want I want
that's what
to
we want to solve.
I want to unpack that a little bit because
Yeah.
I mean, again, I mean, I've had this conversation with many people, and again, it's about supporting local, and people like, well, I'll support local as long as it's not more expensive. And I was like, well, that kind of it's probably going to be a little bit more expensive, like to support local. So I guess as an organization, or as or working for your suppliers and your ranchers, how do you guys talk about that? How do you kind of talk, I would rather, like, I believe it was the Innisfil Growers had a shop over here in Crowfoot that I would go there and buy, instead of buying them at Superstore, I would go there and buy our cucumbers and our peppers and things along those lines. But unfortunately, obviously not enough people were doing that because they ended up shutting down. So how do you talk to people about that?
I think it's the biggest thing is there's number one misconceptions. I think number one is people don't actually realize the price difference isn't as bad as it once was. Like for example, our prices have only increased about 5% in over the last 3 years total, whereas you're seeing 11% year over year in grocery, in more traditional grocery. I think that's really interesting. And the funny thing is, we let our producers set prices. We don't tell them what we're going to pay them. We let them set the price. We also don't hold inventory, so we don't have the waste, and so we minimize our risk. But I think one of the biggest things in that is that people aren't used to seeing, especially on produce, because you go into a store and, like, when you buy it online, you see a set price. Like, it's like, okay, this pound of cucumbers is $5. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what our cucumbers are priced at right now, but it's $5. But you go to the grocery store, and oftentimes it's like $2.99 or $4.50 a pound, and you buy whatever you buy, and then you get the sticker shock when you get to the till and you pay, and you walk out of the store saying, I've paid this much. And so I think there's a little disconnect on that when you look at product. We always tell people to look at a basket, and also with us, because delivery is part of our service, is that look at the delivery costs, look at those things, because we're actually priced pretty competitively, on a standard basket of items, and all delivery fees and everything factored in. We're within $2-3 of the cheapest product you can buy, which is not the same quality or same values as our product. And some things will be more expensive, like our meats will be more expensive because, there's just the systems and the games, but you get to know that more money goes back to your farmer, because with us, $22 is we did our little own return study, and so $22 for every dollar spent goes back into our local economies. So if you're, local car dealership, if you're supporting a local producer, he's going to come and buy your product. He's going to come buy his car from you versus, if you don't support local, that's going to go, that money is going to go somewhere else, and whether it gets back into our economy is not good.
No, absolutely. Well, let's talk. Let's unpack your process a little bit and how it works. So, here's your soapbox a little bit. And for anybody that wants to take a gander at it, just click on Cultivatr's website in the comment section and place your order right now.
Yeah, and definitely we can, hopefully I won't take 3 hours on my soapbox because I can get up there for a long time. But it's ultimately what we need to be doing is you get better, healthier food, you get fresher food. Most people don't even realize with us, we don't hold inventory. So your product isn't sitting there for a week, it hasn't sat in a truck for a week. It's at most 2 days off a farm. And so you're getting the freshest product. You're working with anything from, we work with over 100 different farmers, food artisans, and vendors. So anything from, we just listed these great empanadas today or yesterday, right up to, your traditional, your dairy, your cheese, everything else we've got. And I think that's also the other myth, is that people don't realize what we can actually produce locally. And the more we support it, the cheaper it will become, and the more people who will be doing it.
So I mean, I'm sure it's just as simple as I've been there. So you just go to your website, create account, log on. How easy is it for for somebody to set up?
Just like any other online shopping, there's no accounts. We do have a recurring order. If you want to save a little money, you can set a recurring order for things you buy every week. Otherwise, there's no account, there's no subscription. Literally just go online, place an order, and it can be at your house in 2 days.
So it's about 2 days delivery.
Yeah, 2 days delivery. It's something we explored, and we sort of, you know, it's again something when we like to talk about differentiating ourselves from like a last mile delivery. I think the fees you end up paying and the waste it creates to have like 30-minute delivery, just we haven't seen that demand that people actually want a 30-minute delivery. In at least our customer base hasn't wanted it, but we 2 days, and 2 days allows us the ability to actually get the stuff picked, get it delivered to us, and then sent to you. So like again, we're not actually, again, we don't hold the inventory. So like if you order tomatoes today, they're not actually being picked till tomorrow.
Okay. I like that. I like that. I actually didn't even know that, to be quite honest with you, that you
Yeah,
weren't holding. I know you didn't hold a lot. I thought you held a little bit of inventory, not none. So, I love that. And I mean, like anybody, we've bought a quarter cow before, right? In past. And I mean, the meat is so much better, so much. I love it, right? If I was still in Saskatoon and had my big deep freeze, I could put a whole bunch of meat in. I probably would do that again, but don't have the big freezer space for that. But I love good quality, like good quality meat that comes from there. So, why don't you
and
talk about
that's
some of your producers and some of the some of the high quality stuff that they produce?
sure. I'm gonna get in trouble because we have 99 producers and I can't mention them all. So unless you really want to, I can tell you stories about all of them. There's that scene in Portlandia for anyone who watched it where they go to the restaurant and they basically bring a book on the chicken you're gonna have for dinner, and it's life story and all that. And that's the level all of our producers have of their animals. We go to their farms, we work with them, we know them. We make sure they're saying what they say is true. So again, it's everything from, we've got grass-fed beef from Gemstone. That's probably some of the best grass-fed beef I've ever, like, it is the best. I'm not going to lie. For grass-fed, they do such an amazing job. We've got Vital Greens dairy for those people who like dairy. It is amazing. It's just so pure and rich, and it doesn't taste like grocery store milk or any of their dairy products do. It's still got that just, there's something about it, you can't describe it. Even something as cool as Hydrogreen, romaine supplier, lettuce supplier. Right now we've been hearing shortages of romaines. Well, we don't have that problem locally. We have that problem importing it, but we don't have it. And this stuff is amazing. It's fresh, it's rich, it's crispy. It's so, yeah. I almost need everyone to taste it. Like we've always debated, is we need that almost like the first one's free, and then and then you're hooked. And that explains why our customers stay with us, because our product is, whatever it is, it's been vetted. We don't sell anything that isn't the best.
Hey, the best. Again, I mean, supporting local is, I can't. Again, I just love. I love, especially some of the local bison I've had, and things like that, and I've been in the food industry. That was one of the first companies we exited, and I understand the process. And ours wasn't fresh. A lot of the stuff that went to the restaurants was frozen and things like that, and I get it. I understand why. Things that had to work that way. So
Well,
what
and
I
we
mean,
actually do. We actually do all our meats. I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression. Our meats are actually all frozen, because it makes for safer transportation. It allows us not to have that waste, but they're individually vacuum packed and sealed. So you cannot. We've done blind tastings. We've done everyone. When you freeze meat properly, you do not get all the myths we've been led to believe about it. You can also thaw it in your sink in about 5 minutes, if you need to safely. And so one of the things is, when we strategically chose the option of frozen meat, but it's got to be frozen correctly and vacuum packed and flash frozen before it goes in. You can't just stick it in any bag and stick it in your freezer. You'll get freezer burn that way. But again, when we looked at ways to make a better system and not have waste,
yeah.
freezing frozen meat, individually packed frozen meat, was one of the solutions we did. And actually, it's because it's what we used in restaurants. Again, most people don't realize the meat they eat in restaurants has been frozen.
Well,
Yeah.
is Wendy's burger? They say never frozen.
I can't speak for Wendy's, but
I don't know.
I
I'm
know
just
I
shitting. Yeah.
honestly I know no I don't know Wendy's process, so it's not
Yeah.
my place to call. But I just know from the restaurants I worked in the past, our meat was frozen in a
No,
lot
no,
of
for
cases.
sure. And
Yeah.
Mo's
Well,
given
and even
some.
you said,
I know, and Mo's given some good love on LinkedIn there. Thanks for the nice. He said pasta sauce is amazing, and things along those lines.
yeah.
So one of the things I love is how you treat your staff. So I'm going to give you another soapbox here. You talk about them. You give them a great a living wage. I mean, everything about you as a genuine person, Dan, is I'm a huge fan of, and I love, again, supporting local, hiring local, treating your people right. It's just another reason to go to Cultivatr and support everybody that is involved in that entire ecosystem.
Yeah, no, I guess, again, when we build a new company, again, for us, it wasn't just about selling groceries. It was building a better model, something that worked for everyone. And again, that's a producer, that's a consumer, that's the people involved in it from the beginning. I think it's kind of embarrassing when we have billion-dollar industries and companies that have to fight battles in public between paying staff and having to, take wages away, expect people to work in dangerous conditions. In not It's just not being a responsible organization. I think, it's sort of funny, because having worked for some really large corporations, and I think large corporations always sometimes get a bad name, but I've worked for great companies that, some of the stuff that is expected of people in the distribution system of food and stuff was something, in the professional world, it would never happen, but yet it was allowed to happen in other industries. And I think that's just part of being a decent human being. I don't think it's worthwhile to build a company at all costs, and not take care of your staff, not take care of your team and everybody involved in your thing. So I guess it's a personal belief, but I think it's just, yeah, what we need.
Well, and I mean, as David Cree commented, it's so important, right? Like it is. He said, "Big kudos." And again, it's not. It's about everything. As you mentioned before, it's a farmer that will go buy the truck, and the guy who's having the truck is now, who the sales rep that did that is going to maybe go to a local pub, or he's going to go to a local restaurant, or he's going to, it's a trickle down effect, and it affects everybody. And the more that we can do it, the better off we are as an ecosystem. And I know it's not going to be 100% support local. I get that, but I mean, when you have an opportunity to, if I have to buy something, like there's a little indigenous shop down just off in Inglewood. When I wanted to get some Every Child Matters shirts, I go down there, I buy it down there. I don't go and order it online from somebody that's going to make a buck, right?
No, absolutely. And I think it's just it's knowing where your stuff and knowing where your thing is. And I think, again, it's creating a win for everybody. And that's what we have to start looking at within our system is how does this affect everybody and not just, you know, there's always this whole debate about the true cost of food and, the impact. And there's so much we're led to believe cheaper is better. And, and I get it. But when we actually start looking at what cheaper is, like I challenge everybody, build a cart in our website, build a cart in super or on another competitors. I'll be careful what I say, competitors website, compare it and see, because it's not the crazy expensive difference that people think it is.
No, absolutely. Again, I'm talking
Yeah.
with Daniel Berzin, the founder of Cultivatr. Cultivatr.ca is their website. Click on it in the comments section. So let's talk about what's next. Where are you going? What are you going to be doing? What are the big plans?
So right now we're still working on our Edmonton expansion. So we are starting to deliver to Edmonton. We've been kind of slowly phasing that out and hoping to grow it there. Other than I'll go on the record, I'm not an Oilers fan, but other than that, we love Edmonton. I think Edmonton's a great place. Spent a lot of time there, and we're excited to grow in Edmonton. Work with some. We've actually started. You know how it all started is we actually started working with more and more Edmonton producers as well. And so it's like, well, if we're going to go up there to pick up stuff, maybe we should look at delivering and supporting them as well. And so Edmonton's kind of a new thing we're working on, and then and just growing our presence in Calgary. And it's I think one of the things we talk about is before we look at we like to be across Canada, absolutely, but we want to figure out Alberta first, and then we can start expanding across Canada, because I think that's the problem other companies have made in the past is your problems don't solve yourself by growing too fast too quickly. Solve your problems and then grow.
And I mean, that's kind of one of the things I love about what we do at Pure Guidance, right? Is it's that statement. You don't have to run, right away. You just, figure out, get all your inconsistencies, figure the little things that you have to do before you move from here to Halifax or here to Toronto or here to Seattle, whatever it is, wherever your next market is. You have to be a well-oiled machine here, or it's going to fall apart. The cracks are going to become canyons, and you're just not going to be able to grow properly. And sometimes you only get one chance at that. And you better have your home base in line before you do that. So kudos to you, knowing that and realizing that and understanding that, going Calgary, Edmonton is a little baby step, but it's an expansion step. But it's only 2.5 hours, which is easy to kind of correct. Same type of mentality, yes, different consumers, but it's going to be a heck of a lot different if you're going to kind of go to the big smoke in Toronto.
Well, I can't stress enough, the whole MVP concept. And, it's sort of been interesting because, we've been looking at our brand, and sort of our brand story. Cultivatr itself launched right before COVID, like literally 2 months before was our official launch. And so then, you instantly grow by, 15,000%. It's 1 month we're doing 30 orders, the next month it's 60, the next it's 1,800. But knowing that, most companies be like, let's supercharge this, let's go raise around, let's supercharge it. We strategically said, no, we need to understand like what we're doing. It's hard because it's been hard on the pocketbook. It doesn't give us the best numbers, but now we're able to go back and restart and say, that was a one-time thing. Fortunately, we're able to retain, big majority of those customers and keep that revenue where it was without actually doing it. But,
Yeah.
having to make that strategic decision to shut down marketing, because if I can't give you a good customer experience, it's, and, like we're better, even though it sucks because of, we're not making money, is that if I give you a bad experience, that kills me, because you're going to tell two friends, and it's sort of the same thing. Word of mouth works positively, it can
Yeah.
also work against you. And so it's a hard strategic decision to make, and I think that's a mistake we've seen other companies in spaces, actually in all spaces, make, is you know thinking growth first instead of solving your problems, figuring out your business model first. And I think it's what we're led to believe in media and everything else. We were talking about it earlier. We think like all these tech companies have been overnight successes, but none of them have. Like, everybody forgets Amazon's a 30-year-old company that really only came into its own in the last 10 years.
Boy,
But when they
absolutely.
hit that last 10 years, it was crazy. But,
Yep.
those are things that we forget as entrepreneurs and we forget as people. It's a journey. It's not, and that's the same with fixing the food system. We're not going to fix it overnight, but it's going to happen. And we talk about product and supply. We're not going to be able to instantly replace everything you need or everything you want. But over time, we can start doing it because, it's even like working on right now. Like we've started to grow things hydroponically that we haven't ever done before because there's demand. Like, so if you order your radishes from us, they're actually grown hydroponically. One of the first things to do it, where historically all we've ever seen are leafy greens. You see greenhouses getting into fruit. One of our competitors, Sunterra, is growing fruit in their greenhouses, and so it's all these things that we're starting to see because now we're starting to look at data, we're starting to look at demand, and so it's going to build industry, and then eventually we go there. So it's not right now. We're not going to have everything you need, but in time we will.
No, absolutely. And I love the your growth plan. I think it's bang on, and get everything in tuned here, and then away you go. And you know what, even if you don't go and you make a very good profitable business here in Alberta like that, there's nothing wrong with that either. So
No, and it's something we explain to investors as we go raise
yeah.
money is just too, and the other thing too is that we discount so much how big Calgary, Edmonton as cities are, even within our business communities. Like if you're a SaaS business, like how many giant companies do we have? Well, by giant, I mean billion-dollar oil companies do we have? Like,
Right.
there's so much local stuff here before we start worrying about going across the country and racking up your G&A to try generate sales when you've got lots of doors you can knock on here. And why spend money when you don't have to? I guess is my philosophy. And we discount local, even just as in terms of the business community. Like, if you've got a SaaS business, you look at it. I've got a friend who's starting up this really cool app in relation to helping you pick wine at a store. He's still pretty early in his stages, but how many liquor stores are there in Calgary? And how many people drink wine in Calgary? Like that's even just Calgary is such a huge market.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so but we discount it that you got to be across the country, and it's yeah. Local also applies to more than just buy local, but it's also like look local too.
No, absolutely. Totally agree. Well, I mean, and being a relatively newer entrepreneur, and having to grow your business 15,000% during COVID, I'm sure you might have a little different concept to this question. I'm almost 250 episodes in,
Yes.
just about to pass 4 million views. And I've never changed this question because I love it. I love the answers, and there's obviously been a few repeats, but it's so passionate listening to how entrepreneurs respond to this. So Daniel, if you had one piece of advice for a startup or entrepreneur, what would that be?
My piece of advice is build your business based on not being able to raise any money, because I think we're led to believe how easy and how much money is out there and how accessible people are, and it's really not that. And think it through and think about your growth plan, and that will be your success. And I think it's also one of those things. I forget which author it was or which person talked about being able to overcome, get it when you hit the wall. How can you overcome it? And I think the biggest thing that hits most entrepreneurs is capital. And so think about your business beyond just capital. And again, that's where MVP works. That's where all these other things work. Get sales, figure out your revenue stream before you figure out what's my revenue stream. How do I generate that money? I think that's probably the biggest thing we struggled with too, is even just being blatantly honest. We thought with our numbers, which are pretty amazing for what we do, um, we'd be able to raise money easier, but it's been a struggle because we're different. We're doing something different in terms of what it is. And so, that's something we really want to, I think I would pass on to entrepreneurs is, think about where you're going to stall out and what's your barrier and how you overcome it.
I
I think
love
it's
it.
called the dip. The author wrote something called the dip, That's what it was, overcoming the dip. Now, somebody I'm sure on this forum probably knows exactly what I'm talking about, and we can give credit to the author, but I forget who it was. It's not my idea, but
No, well,
yeah,
I mean, it's still a good idea, right? And we talk about
yeah,
building a strong, solid business first, and even at Pure Guidance, we focus on that. Let's build it. Let's build it strong. Let's build a good team. Let's go, and things like that. So I love that piece of advice, and I
and
appreciate
don't,
Dan, you
yeah,
coming on and sharing your knowledge today, and your story of how you founded Cultivatr. Again, anybody interested, just click on the comment section. And the website is right there, cultivatr.ca. And for everybody that is listening, again, I have a couple tickets available that I bought for next week's Mental Wellness Summit here in Calgary. Please reach out. It's a journey you don't have to take alone. Dan knows that. We've met at Founders Coffee. We've come around Founders Coffee, things along those lines. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there again soon, my friend, and we will chat soon.
sounds good. Thanks, Jade. Thanks for
All right.
having me. Appreciate it.
I 100%. I hope everybody has a great day and stay warm. Bye-bye.